Hello, everyone. Happy to see you again. So, morning, afternoon, and evening. We have everything as we are in different corners of the world. So, this is the fifth thematic Global South Interregional Youth Webinar that is organized by my organization, Citizens Platform on Climate Change and a Sustainable World, with the support of UNESCO's Communication and Information Sector. So today we will consider something that is central for our concern, which is climate change, disinformation, and fake news. With you that are in Bangladesh, Chile, but Brazil, I'll explain that later, Colombia and Nigeria, plus those that have been coordinating the initial phase from Bangladesh, Argentina, Nigeria, and Italy. So I feel it like we are already an extraordinary reality. So we will have a fast conversation. I mean, question, answer, comments, to share experiences, lessons learned, know-how, and to brainstorm together. I mean, communicating and informing properly is a challenge, increased because of all the organized and very professionally implemented disinformation and fake news campaigns. So we will continue doing this. For us, it's an ongoing work in progress. We are recording each webinar because we hope that then will be watched by many other people, generating ideas and helping in what they are trying to do and building youth leadership. So now we are already 30, so for me that means already a network, and that should be gaining strength. Those of you meeting today, I mean the main actors of this webinar are Soraya Zorzal, which is Brazilian, but is working in Chile. S.I. Ohumu, she's in Nigeria. And then Masood Ove in Bangladesh, in the capital city, Dhaka, and Ludwig Spitia in Bogota, Colombia. Then we have Alessandra and Paola in Italy, and Saif in the UK, that are part of the Citizens Platform team, plus those that have been organizing the initial phase of this program, that are Ozzy Otsemobor in Nigeria, Patricio Porta in Buenos Aires, Argentina, and Monorom Pollock in Dhaka. So I will give some elements to frame a little the conversation today. There is research data that a macro one that was conducted by universities in the UK, Ireland, Australia, and the USA. They went through 249,000 documents from 20 prominent conservative think tanks and analyzed funding by fossil fuel industry and other conservative donors, showing how the contrarian claims, I mean, those that are trying to stop the climate change and sustainable development movement, how they are funding, organizing, and implementing campaigns. And it's extremely interesting. And when I underline critical thinking, is because inevitably I look to ourselves. I mean, how are we doing it, and how with imagination we should be able, while it's necessary, to replace the lack of funding, because these others, for instance, in another research, it comes out that ExxonMobil in 2 years' time was paying to YouTube for a campaign almost almost $13 million, US dollars. Now, in the other research, the one I mentioned earlier, well, they observed that these campaigns are organized in super claims, sub claims, and sub claims. Let's say it's structure. The 5 super claims are to disseminate this idea. This is not happening, the climate change. It is not provoked by humans. It is not bad. Solutions won't work, and scientists are unreliable. Very clearly, you see, very clearly they were, this is the structure, the main, the backbone of the rest of the campaign that, as I said before, have 49 sub claims. And what's been the outcome, though this is being neutralized by the action of science communicators that came in, and well, and all the Friday for Futures increasing mobilization and campaign. But the outcomes that we all have perceived is reduced climate literacy, public polarization, canceling out accurate information, reinforcing climate silence, provoking confusion, eco and climate anxiety. And for them, the center all conducts to a message that says measures will harm the economy, the environment, and the society. So, then I will ask Soraya Sorsal in Chile, because it's a good example for me, not Soraya, what she knows. She's a geographer. She's a chief of projects in a foundation called Mi Colaboración, My Collaboration, and has participated in the elaboration of a manual on ancestral practices in the Andean people, and in the production of documents for the toolkit, Tools for Young Activists on Climate Change, that was supported by UNICEF. She has a particular concern, and this is the point I would like Soraya to brief for us, on the regional agreement on access to information, public participation, and justice in environmental matters in Latin America and the Caribbean. This is called the Isca Agreement. Escazú is where it was signed. So from this agreement explicitly talks about the right to access to information. So Soraya, according to your perception, how much public knowledge would be about the right to access information enshrined by this agreement?
Thank you, Ricardo, and thank you to open the space for me to talking about something that I like so much. And the Escazú Agreement is known to the first agreement, international agreement, to provide the protection to human rights defenders in environmental matters, as you say it. But in the name of the agreement, the original name of the agreement talking about of the environmental information. And as a Brazilian, I know that the president say a lot of things. The environmental information that's not so good, is not so right, and it's not so true. So the importance to have some agreements like Escazú Agreement in Latin America is very important to guarantee that we have the information that is true and how can I say, fighting against the people that don't have all the time we receive the fake news, So the Escazú Agreement will guarantee that you don't receive this kinds of news, the fake news. So inside of the Escazú Agreement, we have 2 articles that talking about specifically information. The Article 5 that we will know a little more about environmental generation and dissemination of environment information. So these two articles guarantees that you can have access of information and you can ask for the government the true information that goes around on the world, you know. So I don't know if I can share a screen with you, but Eclac has some, we can hear you, Ricardo, you are muted. I don't know if I can share the screen, but we can send to you that you screen for me. We can hear it, Ricardo. We are muted.
I'd say that no, that PowerPoints are for NGOs and intergovernmental bureaucrats.
Okay. So, so the article, the article 5, for me is a little funny because this is very important thing to talking about, and it's impossible to make some jump. Yeah, no, don't worry.
No, but tell us something, because I want to, I know that, I mean, we should all study the agreement because it's absolutely important. I don't think there's a similar agreement in Africa or or at least in South Asia. But the point for us in the meeting today is this explicitly, as a result of advocacy, lobbying of a lot of people, they arrive to this and says, well, each citizen has the right to go and say, give me information about this, give me information about that, and of course, any journalist. The point is that happens a lot that this conquer takes place and then nobody knows. Or yes, or is it known throughout Latin America that we have the right and we can knock the door and they will give us all the information?
Yeah, and that's the point. No one knows. It's there's a huge campaign, and I remember since 2019 when I went to Costa Rica and pre-COP, we started a campaign to talking about Escazú, because a lot of people inside of the climate activism that didn't know about the agreement. And if you don't know, how can you guarantee your rights, and how you can guarantee that you have the right information to keeping fighting for the climate change? How can you keep on the fight, on the I don't know, the movement? So it's very important that a lot of people talking about Escazú Agreement, and I'm talking about in Latin America, because we know that here we have a lot of problems with the climate activists. Latin America is in the top 5 of the deaths for activists. So it's very important that you know that you guarantee the right information. Yes.
Activists being murdered, no? Yeah.
Yeah, murder, right, yes. So we need to know how you can get the information and asking for the government. And it's very shame because we have 33 countries that can sign the agreement, and by now we just have 24 countries that signed the agreement, and just 12 countries that ratifying the agreement. So just these 12 countries started to put in work that can work the agreement in the countries. And we don't know if the people from these countries know what is the Escazú Agreement, and we don't know if the people can asking for the government, oh, okay, I know that we have I don't know, problem with the forest here, so I need information to know deforestation for the forest. We don't know if the people from these countries know about the agreement. So we need to do a little more about people from Latin America and Caribbean knows about what the agreement, the Iscazú Agreement is talking about, and asking for the government and
Yeah.
to guarantee that we can sign the agreement and ratify it.
Thank you.
Just
Thank you
sign it is not the work.
Thank you for the moment. We will go back to you, but I think this is the point, and not only with the Escazú agreement. I mean, we've been sharing in this webinars also that when you go to work on at certain levels, communities in other parts, there's people that doesn't even heard about climate change. And objectively, then you go to the statistics in Africa, Asia, Latin America, and the Caribbean, there's not enough information about being disseminated about climate change and sustainable development.
I have a huge problem there because, talking about Brazil specifically, we have a government that said, no, we have the hugest forest in the world, so climate change here in Brazil doesn't work. We are the solution of the world for the climate change, but
yes. No, well, it's true. It's true that
oh my God.
it's true that the global South, as they call us now, contributes only 8% to the climate change problem, and the rest is in the global North. But I would like to move to Ludwig in Bogota. Ludwig is a digital strategist. It's a graphic designer. It's an artist. It's the director of a company called Trigion that is specialized in technology for digital communication. And since 2018, he has been collaborating with UNESCO on public access to information and freedom of speech, with a focus on fighting disinformation. He also developed something very particular that's called portalcheck.org, where 35 fact-checking organizations meet. So we heard that, as we could presume, Soraya confirmed that nobody knows about the Escazú Agreement. What do you think, Ludwig? How could this be changed? Why this happens?
Well, thank you very much, and thank you for the invitation. Well, I'm glad that Soraya talked first because you have now an idea of the importance of the Escazú Agreement. And
thank you.
well, the speeches in the COP26 were a very good example of how information can be manipulated. If you listen to the speech of the president of Colombia, we are doing great and we are doing everything possible and even better than expected. But if you really know what has been happening in Colombia, well, we are the #1 country with the most environmental activists killed in the world. The past 5 years, we've had the highest deforestation rates. We've got very critical oil production dependency. We've got the illicit crops, drug trafficking, extensive cattle ranching, and armed conflict, guerrillas. And one of the top problems is that we've got one of the worst cases of land distribution inequality, in which the largest 1% of farms occupy 81% of Colombia, of the whole country. So this gives us a very different perspective of how the politicians usually show the country. So knowing that the government now has a lot of power and the lobby behind the Congress and all the companies behind the Congress, and mainly the government party has a lot of power. So they obviously don't want to lose their business and their land. So they have started very active campaigns, for example, against the Escazú Agreement, as Soraya was explaining. So that's a very specific example of how this information can be used against the climate change and environmental solutions. So in the last 5 years, it has gotten it's been getting increasingly common for politicians to rely on sharing this information and without any consequences. We've got cases of government party senators who are internationally famous for sharing this information. They are famous because they are always in scandals that end up being disinformation. And one of them, one of these senators are actually started presidential campaign for the next year elections. So, as an example of the solutions of this very
before going to the solution, no, because I want to show everyone, not among ourselves today, but to others, no, because we work with information and we try to communicate specific things. Last time in another webinar, you gave an example, no, that a parliamentarian, just one person using social media, managed to polarize the population on a resolution that was being discussed about the distribution of land, no, the land property, and how is that? Why can't we do the same? This is my point. Huh?
Yeah. The thing is that, as I was telling you, they've got a lot of power and money, but the thing is they are very organized, and that's something that we have to learn from them, that they are very organized, and they have very strict plans of this of sharing these campaigns. So if you study who are these people, for example, the leader of this campaign against the Escazú Agreement is married with the president of the Cattle Federation.
Cattle Federation.
Cattle, the cows and
the cows. They are full of cows.
The cows, like the federation.
Yeah.
They are responsible for the most deforestation in the Amazonian region. So of course they don't want to share that information with the world through the Escazú Agreement. And the same happens with the industry of palm production and things like that. And another senator of the same party has a lot of conflict of interest with all these industries, if you studied that. So the thing that we cannot do that, because as you introduced it, Ricardo, we don't have the money to compete
and what about imagination?
Yeah, that's where we have to be more creative to give solutions.
Okay, let me move, and then we because this is becoming more and more interesting. Let me move to Ohumu. S.I.Ohumu. She's a climate activist, and she's an Emmy-nominated journalist, producer with a focus on youth engagement. No? And so Ohumu works through storytelling for climate action, mental wellness, and gender equity. So what is your experience on this? I mean, we are approaching this critically, no, and trying to measure properly without becoming sad, our impact. So
yeah, I think that the good guys, aka us, fundamentally have a problem with how we approach these things, right? You have all raised the point of we don't have any money compared to the Shells and the Mobiles of the world. Zero, nothing. But what we do have though is that we're young, and so a lot of the things that have worked is what I like to call cultivating virality. So there are a lot of tools that we have, right? You've got TikTok, you've got Instagram, right? You've got radio, which may sound like basic things, but I guarantee that if we start thinking about communication from a user point of view, right? Instead of approaching it as, I have this information, this is what you need, this is what I need to counter the misinformation and disinformation that the oil companies and the government is putting out, right? Well, how do I say it in a way that is contextually relevant, right? The people who are listening can relate to it in language that is accessible, is simple enough. We're not using too many acronyms, right? We're not using too many big words, and it's fun. That's the only way we're going to build this knowledge base. Take, for example, I live in Nigeria. We are the poverty capital of the world. Thank you very much, right? A lot of people live below $1 a day, right? And you cannot start telling people things like COP26. They can't really, like, what are you saying, right? You cannot say, go and watch, because how do they get access to TVs, right? I'm not saying everybody's poor in Nigeria, but you get my point. So we must start being aggressive. And that's the thing that works, right? And think of it like this. So I'm currently doing a course on product management, and there's this thing called Agile, right? And a lot of the communication that happens currently in this our space is multinational organizations or the UN or the African Union come together and they bring a bunch of experts in a room with like ties and maybe a couple of young people. And then they create this really dense document with like a lot of climate speak, right? A lot of citations, and then nobody reads it, right? And even when it's publicly accessible, like you have both mentioned, there is a concerted effort for people to not see it, right? We must go beyond that. Nobody wants to see your report. Nobody cares. Nobody wants to see your report. They should, but they don't want to. What do they want to see? They want to spend time on WhatsApp listening to voice notes that are usually fake news or sent by aunties or mothers. They want to go on Twitter and read threads, right? They want to play games. So we must start thinking in those terms because we cannot get the kind of action that we need. We cannot counter money with, what's the word I'm going to use now? Pendatic language, right? If a Shell is bringing out $20 million a year for YouTube, you do not have that money. What you do have though is making a viral dance that just explains to the 20 million people who see it what climate change even means. What is climate change? Define it, right? And then go further than that. And so when you start with a funnel of like 20 million from that video, right, you can then put a link to 100-word document, nothing longer, right? Just 100-word blog post that explains to people how the current iteration of climate change is caused by human action. Just that really, really bite-sized stuff, fun stuff.
Yes. Let me interrupt you, and so we keep the movement. You know, you're a radio person, so. So yeah, I think all that is true. No, at the same time, well, I don't think that now Fridays for Future is a solid organization. I'm sure there's a team of people planning and having a strategy and tactics and revising speeches and all that. But it was not started with money. No. It was started because of a brilliant idea, intuition or idea, whatever it is, because that's what happens with communication. Personalities count, charisma counts, imagination counts. But let me now move to Masood in Dhaka. We continue going towards the east. So Masood Ove, he is the co-founder, that was last year, of Beyond Candid, which is a platform where experiences and stories are shared from a candid lens. And he's been producing with others 3 conversational series of several episodes. Each one were sharing on violence against women and intergenerational perspectives. So Masood now also works as a senior organizing secretary at the National Debate Federation Bangladesh, and is also the vice president of the Youth Net for Climate Resilient Justice. So I would like to concentrate particularly because of the today's webinar on your episodes, which I suppose it's radio, it's podcast, aren't they? And if you tell us exactly how you organize that and if you've been able to measure the impact.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for the invitation, and I really love being at this panel. This has been really a tremendous opportunity for me. Am I audible? Can you hear me?
Yes, but could you try to use the microphone of your laptop and not the one from your earphones, because it's sometimes it's more clear.
Okay, so can you hear me properly now?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so I have unplugged the headphone, and I guess that's right. I mean, it's better now.
Yes,
So
it is
yeah,
better.
coming back to your question. So I founded this organization with one of my colleagues when the climate things, I mean, climate change was at the peak of the conversation during the pandemic, because during the pandemic, it was a lot of disasters were happening around the world, and we were talking about it because we had a lot of time in our hands to discuss about things. So we came up with establishing a platform. I guess Ovumu can relate to me very, vividly, because she is a producer, and I kind of an aspiring producer of making the conversation or initiating the conversation on the social justice. So climate justice is not a climate justice. I basically focused on the women and the children's health, especially happening due to climate change and the displaced migrants that are coming to Dhaka. I mean, if I say you statistically, so there are almost 2 crore people now living in Dhaka, and almost 50 lakhs people have migrated from different parts of Bangladesh, especially from the coastal parts of Bangladesh into Dhaka. Just they got, their shelters have been displaced. They have had to migrate here for the living, because they have no life over there, because for the river erosion, floods, climate disasters, natural disasters, and so many things that made them come here. And when I get back to your question to see that I have been able to measure the impact or not, I guess yes, to some extent, not in a greater extent, but in a small extent I could, because I also made this strategy that Ovumu suggested of 100 words of blog and all. So we started doing digital poster campaign during the pandemic, because we are not able to go to physically to other people and make any physical campaigns or awareness or climate strikes. So we thought of doing some caricaturistic things, using some props in the virtual media.
Just one thing, Masood, excuse me.
Yeah.
Speak a little bit slower, because some here are not English speakers. And
Okay.
if you modulate, we will understand you better. Yes.
I'm sorry.
No. I mean, you've been colonized. You've been colonized in another way. Yes, we've been colonized in Spanish. Yes.
Okay. So let me get back to the pavilion. So glad to have such a moderator in this discussion. You really add a lot of value in it. Okay. So we started using caricaturistic form, cartoons, and characteristic digital poster campaigns in which young people were interviewed and their short quotes were taken on what they are actually thinking about climate crisis and how they can alleviate it and how they want to participate to tackle the climate change. But the problem happened when we started digging up the problems a little more, that how and why we are not being able to do a massive awareness in which people can usually know what is happening around us and what is climate change. So the problem we detected is that people even do not want to read the report that Ovumu said. I want to quote her again. People do not want to know the facts. Also, they are not provided the facts that Soraya said. So, perks of being the last speaker, you get to quote other speakers because it's very resonatable. So the problem happened that we could not make people read that. So started designing such conversational dialogues among young people and the other people in which we invited people from the bigger generations, that means who are above 50, and we also met some panelists from young people like me, 25, 22, 20 to 30, so that the conversation happens in a note, not to make them directly understand what is climate crisis, rather to make, you know, a tincture of thought that the weather is changing, your lifestyle is changing, and you can see it if you clearly try to closely see it. So the conversation made so much impactful in terms of our assessment that the intergenerational thought came in front of everyone, and it got a little bit of virtually or social media hit. So people got to connected with us and started telling that I want to participate or I have some things to tell. So, you know, this intergenerational perspective of my whole conversational design was really difficult to pull off, because the most challenging part of this whole series was to bring someone who was above 50 or 55 and is not ready to talk about what he's thinking, or is not ready to take another perspective of this generation. And it was also difficult for the young panelist to make his or her space in a storytelling way that will translate the main message in a very short words and easy words that will create an impact in the head of the bigger generation panelists. So this was something that we really dealt with difficulty and utmost care. And I guess, yeah, Soraya said 80% of the episodes got kind of a good attention, and we got featured into things. But again, now if I look back on the series after doing 2 complete seasons of the conversational series on intergenerational perspectives, I can see that still there are a lot of issues and there are a lot of things that people do not want to talk about, even if they know about it. They're not ready to talk about it.
It's very clear what you're saying, and I want to interrupt you to elaborate on that and what's been said until now, because and to keep in the how to communicate concern, let's say, because that's our job. And we are dealing with a situation, and you see, things, it's a profession, communicating and informing. I mean, I have respect for the good NGOs, no, and not for many others. But even good NGOs do not include communication in their budgets, and they do not have someone that is professionally a reporter and a communicator. So they think, okay, when we need it, we write a press release, and probably they don't know that we journalists, the press release, we throw it in the bin, because we don't care. We do care about issues, but we tell issues through stories, because that's what people accept, stories, not speeches. No,
exactly.
It's simple, but it's not simple until you don't highlight it. What is the difference between a speech, I mean, a theme center speech? What is the difference with a story that then will tell you about the thematic? No, but you have to arrive to that. No, and I arrived to that working with trying to build interaction between civil society and media. No, but communication is a technical thing that is organized, and it's very much organized. I mean, I was surprised because I didn't know. I mean, I've been working in Afghanistan since 2003. Now NATO and the US left, but when they were there, they were having a meeting every December in Dubai, the NATO, to decide what was going to be the narrative for the next year. The year was ending and they wanted to define the narrative for the, the new year. So the chief communicator arrived from Brussels with 2 pages written from each side, with the main slogan and what can derive, I mean, the collateral elements of that main slogan. They discuss it to approve it, to polish it. And what happens, and what happened in that case, they were inviting people like me, with accepting the rule that we were not going to report what said each one, no? It's called Chatham House rules. The slogan that first time I went was, "This is an Afghan war and we came here to help you," which was not true at all. When they invaded, there was no war. There were winners and losers. But 6 months after, even knowledgeable Afghans were saying, well, this is our war. You see? Next year, the slogan was, this is an Afghan war. We came here to help you, but we cannot stay forever. So the power of organizing things, and of course, they count with mainstream media, is gigantic. And what happens we talk about social media, well, there are what, 5 companies: Google, Twitter, WhatsApp, YouTube, Instagram, all American, 3 of them.
TikTok now.
Well, TikTok, yes. All the others are American, 3 of them owned by the same person. And that's the reality. That's the reality. So, but this is a technical exercise. This is a profession. And we are together to try to talk critically about that. And we have already assumed, okay, we are overcome by the lack of information. There's more in the north, evidently. They are richer, and even the activists have more resources. They have probably access to better technology, but we are a lot of people, and we are used to fight against adversity, and we can be stubborn, and very much stubborn, and we can be like Mahatma Gandhi was saying, if there's one day that I don't provoke a reaction on the other side, that day I have failed. He wanted to disturb the public constantly. So this is my point. Professionalism and imagination. What can you say about that? What do you say? and collective action. I would add that. Collective action, because that's what we are doing, and we can do it. No, we are together today. We should be constantly together and bring in more and more and more people. Comments? Good.
Well, maybe connecting also what our colleague SI talked before. The example of the project that we developed with UNESCO and a fact-checking organization in Argentina called Chequeado, we understood the importance of digital communication, and in that project, from the beginning, I told them we have to include influencers, digital influencers. So that was a very important thing of the projects that we have been developing, to include YouTubers, Instagrammers, well, the TikToks. Is all there. There's always in each part. There's at least two very important influencers from Latin America. We have the advantage of the language because, well, that's something that we have to take advantage of in the region, that a person from Mexico can talk to the whole continent, and maybe Brazil is the exception of the region. and in the Caribbean happens the same. But there's a very important advantage with working with influencers. But that has been one of the most important things, and the ability to join forces with these 35 fact-checking organizations that are all doing the same. And the important thing was to identify that the same types of disinformations are shared in all the countries. So yeah, there's a lot of joint efforts that can be used in these kinds of collaboration. So just to wrap this conclusion is that first, the education is all very important, but also collaborations. And in this case of environmental themes, it always comes down to political will. So there's another very important obstacle, because we have been talking about like pandemic and the vaccines in these projects. Now, next month, we will be launching a disinformation project about disinformation during elections. So this will be very interesting to know what's going to happen, and we will also be including influencers and all these resources.
Good. That's a good point. No, I mean, I think it's absolutely important. Plus, I mean, for instance, we could decide that we will squeeze our brains and our imagination to come up with one idea per month that media would not be able to avoid. Considering the reality, regional realities, but also world realities. I mean, if, for instance, we say, okay, we want a selected group of people from different parts in Africa, Asia, that want to have a conversation with the Pope. I'm sorry for those that are not Catholics, but the Pope is a figure, no? And media covers the Pope.
Public, yeah, personality. So.
Okay, yeah. So that I'm sure that we could get it, and it would happen. I'm trying to get, for instance, Leonardo DiCaprio to have a conversation with the cardinal that wrote the Vatican's encyclical on environment, you see? And I know that if that happens, if DiCaprio accepts, I know that that will go around the world. So that's one level. And another level that paradoxically may be more complicated is at national levels, no? And to do it regularly, which is the other secret of our profession, that you deliver things regularly and not randomly. Now we got more information about these issues because it's the COP26, but the COP26 finishes today. And after 1 week, there will be no more headlines on this, no? So it's an exhausting exercise, but we are the people that are able to do it, and we have to bring more like us. What do you think, Ohumo?
Right. Something I've been actively thinking about is collaboration, but not limited to between media and communication practitioners and influencers. Collaboration, I liked what Masood said, the intergenerational aspect of it. I'd go a step further and say collaboration across industries and politics. Let me give you an example. So where I currently work is a radio station, right? We have a town hall in January. So we're going to the oil producing communities and about environmental degradation. I'm the project manager for that. For that to happen, we have to get a bunch of senators to say yes. We have to get a bunch of for public good businesses to say yes and put money behind it, right? Then we have to get local communicators and media in that region who can speak the language and understand the culture. Then we have to get community organizers. So there's a bunch of people that have to come together to make it work. Now think about that on a national and even regional scale, right? We must approach this with nuance, with a cross-platform thinking, right? The thing that works for TikTok and Instagram will work for a very particular subset. So they are young, they are relatively upwardly mobile, they are people who can afford access to the internet. We have another group who are only able to own radios. How are we communicating to those people? Then we must not also forget, you mentioned political will. So we have senators, legislators, governors, right? We must communicate with them in language that makes sense to them. You cannot go to the governor of a state in Nigeria and say, do XYZ because it's good. He doesn't care. He doesn't care about what is good. No, I've worked in a government house for a year. Nobody cares about that. So you go to him and say, your people are dying of flooding, right? These are voters. And now if you don't put policy in place and implement it to prevent this from happening, they won't vote for you. See, that you can understand, right? Then you go to, like I mentioned in the first webinar, so Nigeria has a very active startup community, right? In Lagos alone, we have about 3 unicorns right now, founded by people who are below 30, right? So you go to those people, that's a lot of new money. They are young, they are still malleable. They're in charge of multinational organizations, but they're not set in their ways, right? They're not CEO of JP Morgan, for example. So you can go to them and show them data and say, prove to your customers that you are for public good. Give me X amount to do XYZ. Now, the only way those people listen to you is with data. And this is a problem in the community. I think a lot of us measure vanity metrics, right? They want to see data that I gave you this amount of money and it led to X amount of changed behavior, or use it to lobby for X amount of policy or implementation. So it's understanding that we have different stakeholders, and we have to fine-tune the message really close, so that the specific person we're talking to in that specific moment becomes a yes guy. And then we go to the next person. What is your bias? How can I use that? How can I use that particular bias for climate action? How can I make it relevant? And then the only thing that matters, the only thing that we should be measuring is mitigation and adaptation. That's the only thing. I don't care how many things you have ratified. Nigeria has NDCs, right? We made a lot of noise about upping the NDC. They literally just moved it from 45 to 47%. But you wouldn't know that with all the press releases they sent, right? We have not achieved any of it, right? I don't care about who was invited to what COP. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to the person who is being killed because there is drought in northern Nigeria. Yeah. So think of stakeholders and fine-tuning communication. Sorry.
Good. Soraya wants to say something. No, you're mute,
yeah,
Soraya.
Yeah, now okay. Yes, I always forget to put on the microphone. So thank you for the things that you said. That I'm totally agree on that. And I just want to something plus where you said that, that's the education. Yes, the mitigation and it's very important, but the education, something that Matthew said, that the first generations, we need to educate these kids, these young people to learn, to know the things they are the kids, and know well what they talking about, because it's very important the work that happening today with the technology like TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, but has a lot of information and sometimes it's very superficial. So what do we need to do with the superficial information? It's not so good that. So we have to do something for the people knows better the information, and not know superficially the information, but because when you, I don't know, if someone has superficial information, has in something like that, in a webinar like that, they will say that, see in the TikTok. And if Ricardo asks something more, they don't know what they say that. So it's very important
Yeah.
And I put here some questions just to we thinking about it, because we know that the problem, the people with lecture, people don't read. I don't know why the taxes of reading in Latin America is very low. And I think it is a problem that for us don't get the information because we a little lazy for take this
Well, yes,
information.
yes. I think you're
So
totally right. I think
yeah,
I will interrupt you.
but
Because,
no, it's just that.
one of the things with the technical aspect of communicating is that if you and people not reading and people not having patience, is that if it goes too long, and this is going to be already like 1 hour, people just switched off. So we are going to cut here, but I have a risky proposal to make. Today is 12th November, that we meet again 13th December, not 12th because it's Sunday, and it's fine for Masood, but not for the others. Masood is the only one that has different weekend, no? So, but we have Sunday, yes. Domus Day, but that we meet again with having elaborated ideas about things to be implemented that we could reasonably implement in two basic levels, let's say. World impact, because we can challenge that, and then local and regional impact, no? And that each one of us think, from our side, we will keep it like trying to update it and remember 13 is coming, and that we, in that way, try to start something that is interregional. It's south-south with our southern imagination, which is based on the lack of money. I like how Nigerians are clear about money, You know that the others, there's something also because of the pronunciation. You are right there and they say manifest, and you think they are talking of a manifest. No, it's money first. Okay, so we stop here, we interrupt here. Thank you very much. I like very much the color of your jacket, Soraya, and and the others are variations of red, more or less. Yes, good. Thank you very much. Keep well and active, and we'll meet them the 13th of December. Great. Khodafez, goodbye.
Thank you.
Hasta luego.
Goodbye. Khodafez.
Thank you.
Bye.
It was a pleasure.
Khodafez.
Great to meet
Bye.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye. Take care.
Ciao.
Oh.
Thank you, Ricardo.
De nada, hasta luego. Ciao. Thank you, Masood.
And I would
Thank you.
love
Thank you very much. I'm happy that you were
this
able.
team,
I'm
rather
happy.
than and thank you for replacing me
So
in
now
such a
you're,
great team. Thank you.
so now you are part of the communication and information.
I'm really happy to.
Good.
Take care.
Bye-bye. Take care.